So just how does this Leviathan, a creature requiring almost 400,000 calories a day just to survive, manage to maintain its girth and get enough nutrients to reproduce? Chowing down in springtime is crucial. That's when protein in plants is more available and easier to digest.
Calcium is not very abundant in a lot of plants, and so you have to eat a lot. You have to focus on high-quality foods, high-quality plants, the buds, the shoots, the young leaves, to try to get those minerals, those nutrients, to build the babies.
With Sauroposeidon's voracious appetite, tiny amounts of calcium add up. Bit by bit, it's all stored in her bones, specifically medullary bone.
Medullary bone is a very special bone that's laid down only by an ovulating female, and it's laid down to gather together calcium for calcium carbonate eggshells that they are making during ovulation.
Medullary is a layer of bone which lines the interior of leg bones. It has no structural purpose. Instead, it's a mobile store for calcium and other minerals required to make eggshells. Once stored in medullary bone, calcium and minerals can easily be broken down and sent to where it's needed.
So you're looking at the unfolding, the unpacking of something that starts out as a single cell into an animal that's almost the size of a whale, and it has to come off without a hitch.
In Sauroposeidon, evolution has favored something else as well: the production of a tremendous number of eggs every year. And every one of those eggs takes resources.
After mating, a female Sauroposeidon is now starting to grow the eggs inside of her. And eggs are expensive. They're protein and fat and calcium. Calcium for the bones of the embryo eventually, calcium for the shell of the egg.
A single Sauroposeidon lays hundreds of eggs each season, but many are eaten before they hatch, and most hatchlings are devoured by hungry carnivores. Tyrannosaurus rex, on the other hand, has evolved into something entirely different. These powerful meat-eaters are intelligent and well-armed. They are killers and scavengers. A female ready to pass on her genes is on the lookout for a male with huge jaws, a powerful grip, and a mouthful of steel-tough teeth. Sauroposeidon is an herbivore. The evolutionary strategy for this giant is to lay hundreds of eggs in the hope that maybe just one or two survive to adulthood. To build eggs and embryos, they must consume thousands of calories of vegetation. Tyrannosaurus rex is a carnivore. To produce eggs, it too needs nutrients, calcium and protein. But this female doesn't get calcium from munching on plants. She gets it by crunching bone. The bones of plant eaters.
Tyrannosaur could process a lot more of its prey, be able to digest more. It could get the meat from the marrow, the nutrients from the marrow. It could even digest some of the bone itself.
And there's proof that T-Rex got its calcium straight from the bones of herbivores.
We have T-Rex turds, we have coprolites, fossilized feces from Tyrannosaurus, and it shows pulverized bits of plant-eating dinosaur bone in there. So it munched down and crunched the flesh and the organs and the bones and swallowed all of it. And the bones made it out in digested form out the other end of the T-Rex.
A female Tyrannosaurus rex needs to store the calcium she's building up. And like a Sauroposeidon, she'll store that calcium in her medullary bone. Staying strong is imperative for a female preparing to mate, especially since compared to a male, she has far fewer chances to get reproduction right.
Females are born with a set number of eggs within them. so that they have only a set number of, I'd call them tickets to eternity, where males produce these by the millions every day. They produce more sperm. Females only have these few eggs, and they have to invest their time, their resources within their bodies in the development of these eggs.
Evolution, too, has prepared for this difference between males and females.
One of the interesting things about dinosaurs in general, including T-Rex, is that if we look at their skeletons, we often see that there is one form that's bigger bone than the other.
It turns out that those really big ones, those really massive ones, the most scary ones of all, were female.
For a female T-Rex, finding just the right male to deliver strong offspring, to pass on that one trait that just might give her young the edge they need, is not easy. Tyrannosaurus rex live a solitary existence, and just a handful roam a huge territory.
The larger the animal, the smaller the population that the surrounding territory and surrounding animals can support. So, you know, actually coming into contact, males and females coming into contact, might be a rare occurrence.
There's little direct competition between males. For T-Rex, it's more about protecting your territory from intruders and tracking every female in your range.
I think the sense of smell would allow a male or to know of an ovulating female probably miles away.
A Tyrannosaurus rex is one of the largest, most powerful predators to ever walk on two legs. But a male hoping to mate must be cautious and keep his distance until he's sure the time is right.
The choreography of courtship in T-Rex would have been interesting to watch. Let's say this is a stranger male attempting to insinuate himself with a female. They're eyeing him with Darwinian calculus. Is this the type of male whose genes we want mixed with our genes to make the next generation?
A T-Rex is not just huge and vicious, it's also smart. Courtship, no doubt, followed a strict set of rules.
And the female has to perceive the right signals from the male. So they might, in time, you know, over a span of several days, weeks, start looking for one another. Let's court, let's get together. I don't know, maybe dinner and a movie.
For a male T-Rex, when it comes to impressing a female, there's another problem.
The female T-Rex has much the same shape as the male, was 10, 20, 30% bigger, which means stronger, which means one-on-one, the female's going to win every time.
A lone male trying to attract a female is definitely taking his chances. Correctly reading cues from the opposite sex may make the difference between life and death.
Yeah, if we think about the males being, you know, only 2/3 the weight of a female, the size of a female, if there's going to be any kind of an argument, the female's going to win.
This size difference is true with most dinosaurs. But in the case of T-Rex, it's extreme.
The risk would be if you really make her angry, she might eat you for lunch.
Even for a male who's made it this far, about to be rewarded with his prize, this one final challenge can be deadly.
Now he's in the danger zone. He's within the killing zone. If the females reject him there, they can bite his head off. And that's the end of him in terms of Darwinian calculus.
But in the end, despite the many risks and hazards, the strongest, most well-adapted Tyrannosaurus rex passes on his genes to a new generation. A generation that might just grow a little smarter, a bit stronger, and maybe even tougher than its parents. For males, only the strongest or smartest win the right to their prize, and only their traits will be passed on. Perhaps a longer horn, a stronger frill, a bigger slashing claw, better hearing, sight, or smell. The genes for less useful traits eventually reach the end of the line. Fossil evidence tells us much about how dinosaurs adapt, but reveals little about what courtship for these giants might have been like.
if we imagine these big 3-4 ton Tyrannosaurs doing these mating dances, it's kind of weird.
But one thing we do know is that the dangers of mating are real. Fossil evidence points to serious or even fatal injuries. Tails crushed, ribs and vertebrae fractured, skulls bitten. Dinosaurs create the next generation at their own risk.
If there's going to be an attempt at mating on the part of the male, it really has to be certain that the female is receptive. Because if she's not, she can say no in quite a dramatic and indeed a fatal way.
There's a reason why evolution put females in charge. When it comes to reproduction, they do the real work. So they get to decide which traits survive and which ones simply die out.
The females are really the vital link in the chain here. They're the ones that are building the babies. But a little bit of sperm goes a long way. So most of the males are probably not going to be reproducing.
Like animals today, most male dinosaurs battle it out for the chance to reproduce. Females look for a male who can prove he's stronger, tougher, and maybe more clever than the competition. But sometimes evolution goes another direction and rewards highly unusual and very specialized traits. Physically, Parasaurolophus' horn is useless as a weapon. It's hollow and fragile and just 1/10 of an inch thick. But as a communication device, it's a remarkably effective form of defense, able to send out complex messages, warning of danger or distress. Over more than 1,000 generations, this crest grows longer, and the sounds it emits grow deeper, low frequencies, able to travel long distances. Highly developed communication skills become a significant evolutionary advantage, and soon enough, females only want to mate with the guy with a great set of pipes.
It's a sound-generating organ. It can't help but generate unusual sounds by blowing air through this tube. And because each species has its own distinct shape, each species would have its own distinct sound.
But just how did evolution create this bony crest, able to produce sounds that can travel for miles? It's simple. They got bigger. On the outside, the tubes appear to be only about 3 feet long. But on the inside, chambers loop back and forth, creating as much as 8 feet of resonance or natural amplification. Parasaurolophus generates resonant frequencies as low as 50 hertz, a sound almost as deep as a foghorn.
We can now actually model the kinds of sounds that resonating chamber would make, and it turns out that they're deep sounds, low-frequency sound.
Low-frequency sound waves can transmit for miles, even through dense forest. These calls warn of intruders, a significant defensive advantage. But just how did evolution create a bony crest able to produce sounds that can travel for miles? The answer is simple. For a Parasaurolophus, the traits that make survival in a savage world possible soon enough become the very same traits that attract a mate. For a healthy male, a communication device doubles as the perfect tool for wooing the opposite sex.
This trombone-like structure growing out of the back of the head was used for making dinosaur music during courtship. The males would be calling during the breeding season, attempting to influence multiple females. And the females are calling to challenge the males to prove themselves, because the fundamental fact of courtship is that males lie and females are skeptical. So the skeptical females force the male to go through more and more hoops and loops and hoots to persuade the female to mate.
It's called sexual selection. And like natural selection, it means that females choose traits in males that make survival of their offspring more likely. Multiply those choices over thousands of generations, and suddenly, Deinonychus's slashing claw gets sharper, faster, and more lethal. Triceratops' horn gets longer, and its shield grows tougher. And Parasaurolophus' crest becomes more advanced,